6 silent stroke warning signs you need to know. A Buddha 68-year-old woman in California wakes up like any other morning. She feels slight numbness in her left arm, experiences brief dizziness, and notices she's slurring her words a little while. Talking to her daughter, she brushes it off, thinking it's just from poor sleep, has a cup of tea, and sits down to rest. But less than 2 hours later, she collapses in her living room. At the hospital, doctors confirm she suffered a major stroke. Sound familiar? You might not know this, but strokes don't always hit like a lightning bolt. They're often subtle, quiet, and come with early warning signs that many people dismiss as part of aging, being tired, or just a bad night's sleep. These signs go unnoticed, often until it's too late. So, how does your body warn you before a stroke happens? In this video, I'll share 6 silent but serious symptoms, small signs that could save a life if noticed in time. Watch until the end because the 6th sign is something that 80% of stroke survivors experienced without realizing what it meant. But before we dive in, if you're committed to living a healthier, more fulfilling life, hit that like button to spread this valuable knowledge. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to click subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an important health tip. Let me know you're here by commenting 1 below, and if not, comment 0 to encourage me to bring even better content. Now, let's dive in. 1. Numbness on one side of the face or limb shave. You ever woken up and felt something strange? A tingling or numb sensation running down your arm or leg? Maybe your left arm felt as if it had fallen asleep, and you rubbed it for a while, thinking that it would eventually go away. You might have shrugged it off, attributing it to a strange sleeping position or the aches and pains that come with getting older. After all, it's easy to think of numbness as something that just happens from time to time, right? But what if I told you that this seemingly harmless sensation, the one that comes and goes in the blink of an eye, could be something far more serious? What if I told you that it might be an early warning sign of a stroke? It's difficult to wrap your mind around this possibility. After all, strokes are often associated with sudden, extreme symptoms, a debilitating loss of vision, or a person collapsing to the ground, unable to speak or move. But in reality, a stroke doesn't always hit like that. It can creep up on you slowly, and sometimes it starts with something as innocuous as a little numbness on one side of your body. That sensation of your arm or leg feeling off, heavy, or weaker than usual can be your body's subtle way of trying to communicate that something is wrong. You might be thinking that it's nothing. After all, many people experience numbness or tingling, especially as they get older. It might feel like a passing inconvenience, like a twinge or cramp that fades away on its own. But when that numbness or weakness occurs on just one side of your body, that's when you should pay attention. The cause could be a blockage in the blood flow to your brain, which, even for just a few minutes, can prevent the brain from sending the proper signals to your muscles. When this happens, your body can't function as it should. Your arm or leg might feel heavy, weak, or almost paralyzed, and even simple tasks like moving or speaking may become difficult. This is not just getting older, it's your body sending an urgent signal, a signal that should not be ignored. Linda, a 69-year-old woman from Ohio, had always been healthy and active, even in her late 60s. One morning, she felt an unusual tingling sensation in her right arm, like it had fallen asleep. Thinking nothing of it, she attributed it to sleeping in an awkward position and went about her day. Hours later, Linda found herself unable to move her arm properly, and as the day went on, the tingling became more pronounced. By the time she collapsed in the bathroom, it was too late to reverse the damage. Her brain had already been deprived of blood flow for too long, and she spent 6 months in physical therapy, fighting to regain her ability to move her arm again. If only she had recognized the early signs and sought help right away, things might have been different. This could happen to anyone. You may be in the middle of your daily routine, and suddenly, your arm feels weak or your leg feels too heavy to move. Your balance may falter slightly, or you may notice that your speech becomes slurred or unclear. At first, it might seem like something so minor, you dismiss it as nothing more than fatigue or the result of poor posture. However, these seemingly small moments are often the body's way of signaling that something much more serious could be on the horizon. And by the time you dismiss the feeling and move on, you might be missing the only chance you had to prevent the stroke from happening. According to the American Stroke Association, Up to 80% of stroke patients experience numbness or weakness on one side of the body within 48 hours before a stroke. Yet, only 1 in 4 people who experience these symptoms recognize them as potential signs of a stroke and seek immediate help. This means that many individuals, just like Linda, might miss the critical window of time where they could have received medical intervention that could have saved their lives or prevented permanent disability. If these signs are ignored, the opportunity to reverse the damage slips away quickly. That's why early action is critical. Think about it. The signs are subtle, but they can make all the difference. If you experience numbness, weakness, or heaviness on one side of your body, whether it's your face, arm, or leg, don't let it slide. Even if the sensation fades within a few minutes, don't assume it was just an isolated incident. A short-lived moment of numbness could be your body trying to tell you something important. The next time you notice something off, don't hesitate. Take action. And here's a simple way to check if there's any immediate concern. Smile and see if one side of your mouth droops. Raise both arms and see if one falls. Try saying a sentence and see if your words come out slurred or unclear. If any of these actions feel difficult, call 911 immediately. This isn't a moment to wait for someone else to make the decision for you. It's your body, and you know it better than anyone else. The earlier you act, the more likely you are to avoid the severe consequences of a stroke. You don't need to wait for your children or friends to tell you that something's wrong. Trust yourself. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to reverse the effects of a stroke. In fact, many stroke survivors have shared that their experiences could have been very different if they had simply paid attention to those early, subtle signs and taken action. People who survived strokes but missed those early warning signs often describe feeling like they had lost control over their own bodies, almost as if their body had betrayed them. But those who acted early, who listened to their bodies when they noticed something was wrong, found themselves in a far better position to recover, often much more quickly and with fewer long-term effects. The takeaway here is simple. If you experience any unexplained numbness, weakness, or imbalance, especially on one side of your body, take it seriously. These early signs are your body's way of warning you, and acting quickly could make the difference between regaining full function and facing permanent consequences. Remember, early action saves lives. Your health is in your hands, and the sooner you respond to the smallest signals, the safer and more independent you can remain. Linda's story is a reminder that we often take our bodies for granted, thinking that a little numbness is just a part of growing older. But that numbness, that tingling sensation, could be the first step towards something far more serious. So don't wait for a major event to make you realize the importance of acting fast. If you notice something unusual, trust your instincts and seek help immediately. You deserve to live a life that's free from fear and full of strength. In the end, it's about being proactive and taking control of your health. Stay vigilant, stay aware, and remember that those quiet signs may be your body's loudest cry for help. Don't let a simple moment of numbness turn into a life-changing situation. Listen to your body and take action today. 2. Sudden blurred vision or loss of vision in one eye. Have you ever been going about your day when suddenly something seems off with your vision? You're reading a book or scrolling on your phone, and then, out of nowhere, your vision starts to blur. It's as if a thin fog has settled over one of your eyes, making everything you look at appear unclear and distant. Maybe you rub your eyes, thinking it's just tiredness or eye strain, and continue on with your day. Perhaps you simply assume it's nothing, something that comes with age, or maybe your eyes are just dry. But what if this seemingly small issue, this fleeting moment of blurred vision, is actually trying to tell you something far more serious? Imagine waking up one day, feeling perfectly fine, only to experience that sudden, foggy vision in one eye. You think it's nothing, just a bit of irritation from not sleeping well or from staring at a screen too long. But what if I told you that blurred vision, especially if it happens suddenly and without explanation, could be a warning sign of a stroke? What if that foggy vision in your eye is not just an inconvenience, but a direct sign of something more alarming happening inside your body? This is exactly what happened to Arthur, a 74-year-old man from New York. One morning, Arthur sat down at his kitchen table, reading the newspaper. But as he turned the page, he noticed something strange. His right eye, which had always been sharp, suddenly became cloudy. It felt like a foggy lens had covered his vision. He blinked several times, rubbed his eyes, and thought it was just a bit of dryness or maybe some eye strain from the evening before. He went on with his day, hoping it would pass, but it didn't. The blur continued. After an hour of resting and trying to clear his eyes, Arthur still couldn't see properly out of his right eye. He assumed it was nothing, something minor, just part of aging. But little did he know, that brief moment of blurry vision was a signal that his body had been sending him, a sign of reduced blood flow to the brain. You might be wondering, how can something as simple as blurred vision be a symptom of a stroke? Well, your brain is responsible for processing vision. The part of your brain that controls your sight is called the occipital lobe, and it relies heavily on a constant flow of oxygen and blood to function. When blood flow is interrupted, even for just a few moments, it can cause your vision to become disrupted. The issue is not in your eye itself, but in the brain's ability to send clear visual information. If this interruption in blood flow happens in the occipital lobe of your brain, even for a brief time, it can cause temporary vision loss or blurred vision, often in one eye. Arthur continued with his day, assuming his vision would return to normal. But the next morning, he woke up and realized he could no longer see out of his right eye at all. He rushed to the doctor, but by then, it was too late. The doctor confirmed that Arthur had suffered a stroke in the occipital region of his brain, which is responsible for vision. Had he gone to the hospital just 30 minutes earlier, much of his vision could have been saved. Instead, Arthur was left with permanent damage to his eye, and his quality of life was forever altered. The story of Arthur is all too common. Many people experience temporary vision loss or blurred vision before a stroke, but fail to recognize it as a warning sign. According to Johns Hopkins University, around 10% of stroke cases begin with temporary vision loss, often accompanied by flashes of light or sudden dimming. Unfortunately, many individuals brush off this symptom as eye strain, aging, or dry eyes, not realizing the danger lurking beneath. The issue with vision loss in the case of a stroke is that it is often so temporary and seemingly insignificant that people ignore it. They dismiss it as part of growing older, or they think that their eyes are just tired from too much screen time or lack of sleep. But these moments of blurred vision are often the earliest indicators of something much more serious happening in the brain. The longer you wait to seek medical help, the greater the chance of permanent damage, as time is critical when it comes to strokes. If you experience sudden blurred vision or loss of vision in one eye, especially if it's accompanied by dizziness, weakness, or slurred speech, don't ignore it. Seek medical attention immediately. Waiting even a few hours can make the difference between restoring your vision and losing it permanently. The most common reason for vision loss in stroke patients is the reduced blood flow to the brain, and the vision issues are typically linked to a disruption in blood flow to the occipital lobe. The brain, like every organ in your body, requires a consistent and adequate supply of blood to function properly. When this supply is disrupted, even temporarily, your body may exhibit symptoms like blurred vision, flashes of light, or temporary vision loss. These are not just random occurrences, they are warnings. What makes these symptoms even more alarming is that they often occur without pain. Unlike some other medical conditions that are accompanied by physical pain or obvious signs, a stroke in the occipital lobe can sneak up quietly, often without any discomfort. The blurred vision you experience might seem insignificant at first, but it could be the first step in a stroke that is silently unfolding inside your brain. If you've ever experienced sudden blurred vision, or even if you're just reading this and it's something you've felt in the past, consider this your wake-up call. It's easy to dismiss these moments as nothing. We live in a world where we're constantly pushing ourselves, often ignoring small signs of distress that our bodies give us. But when it comes to strokes, ignoring these early warning signs can have devastating consequences. Blurry vision, even if it's temporary, should never be taken lightly. The message is clear. Your vision is not just a passive sense, it's an early warning system that your brain uses to communicate with you. If your vision goes blurry, especially in one eye, combined with other symptoms like dizziness or slurred speech, act quickly. Seek medical help immediately. Don't wait for the symptoms to get worse. Don't assume it's just part of getting older or that it will pass on its own. You have the power to make a difference by recognizing these signs early and seeking help in time. Arthur's story is a tragic reminder that blurred vision should never be ignored, especially when it's not linked to any obvious cause like eye strain, The best thing you can do for yourself and your health is to trust your body and not wait until it's too late. Time is of the essence. Don't let the opportunity slip away to protect your health. Listen to your body and take action before it's too late. 3. Dizziness or loss of balance for no clear reason. Have you ever stood up, feeling perfectly fine, only to suddenly experience the sensation that the world around you is spinning? Maybe you're walking across the room, but it feels like your feet are disconnected from the ground beneath you. It's as if your body is moving in one direction while your mind is trying to catch up. Your vision blurs, and for a brief moment, you can't find your balance. You take a few more steps, trying to steady yourself, but it only seems to get worse. Maybe you hold on to a chair or grab a nearby table for support, trying to make sense of what just happened. It's a feeling you can't quite explain, yet it's happening to you right now. You tell yourself, maybe I'm just tired, or it's nothing. Just a little dizziness, I'll be fine. But what if this feeling is more than just tiredness or a normal part of aging? Linda, a 69-year-old woman from Ohio, was no stranger to a little dizziness here and there. She'd had her share of long days, and sometimes standing up too quickly would make her head spin for a moment. It was nothing out of the ordinary, and she thought little of it. But one afternoon, after getting up from her couch to make some tea, Linda experienced something that stopped her in her tracks. This time, when she stood up, she didn't just feel a little lightheaded. She felt as if the whole room was tilting beneath her feet. Her vision blurred, and her legs wobbled, struggling to hold her steady. For a moment, she was sure she was going to fall. She grabbed the arm of her chair to keep from collapsing and tried to steady herself. The sensation passed, but it left Linda with a lingering unease. At first, Linda chalked it up to the stress of a busy week. After all, she had been running errands all morning and hadn't had a chance to sit down for a proper rest. She told herself it was just fatigue, maybe even dehydration. But as the days went on, the dizziness continued to return, each time more intense than the last. She noticed that she was walking more slowly, taking extra care with each step to ensure she didn't lose her balance again. At times, she felt lightheaded for no clear reason, as though the ground beneath her wasn't as solid as it used to be. Linda started to wonder if this was just a part of aging. After all, she was getting older. It was common for older adults to experience some unsteadiness, wasn't it? But deep down, she knew something was wrong. This wasn't just occasional dizziness. This felt different. It wasn't just the kind of dizziness that comes from standing up too quickly. This was something that lingered and returned at unpredictable moments. Her body seemed to be sending her a signal, but she wasn't sure what it meant. It wasn't until Linda experienced an episode while walking down the stairs one morning that she finally realized how serious things had become. Her legs buckled beneath her, and she nearly lost her balance completely, almost falling down the stairs. That was the moment she knew she couldn't ignore it any longer. The dizziness, the loss of balance, the lightheadedness. It wasn't normal. At the hospital, Linda's worst fears were confirmed. The doctors told her she had been experiencing the early signs of a stroke, and that the reduced blood flow to her brain had caused her balance and coordination to falter. If she had waited much longer to seek help, the situation could have been far worse. She was fortunate that she acted in time, but many people do not recognize the early warning signs and suffer the consequences. According to the American Heart Association, nearly 30% of stroke patients reported experiencing dizziness or loss of balance within 72 hours before their stroke. Linda's story is a stark reminder that dizziness and balance problems are not always something you can simply write off. They could be your body's way of telling you that something is seriously wrong. When we experience dizziness, we often attribute it to something harmless. Maybe we're tired, stressed, or simply getting older. But when dizziness becomes persistent, when it starts interfering with your daily life and causes you to lose your balance, it is no longer a minor inconvenience. It is a warning sign. Dizziness and balance problems can indicate that your brain isn't getting the blood flow it needs to function properly. This is particularly true when the dizziness occurs without a clear cause, such as a change in position or standing up too quickly. When your brain is deprived of oxygen-rich blood, it affects not only your thinking but also your motor skills, coordination, and balance. It's like your brain is running on low power, struggling to send the signals your body needs to stay steady. But the danger lies in how easy it is to dismiss these symptoms. We are often quick to write off dizziness as something minor, something that will pass with time. But what if that dizziness is the first sign of a serious medical condition, like a stroke? It is essential not to ignore these warning signs. If you experience dizziness or loss of balance frequently, especially when it seems to occur for no clear reason, you need to take action. It's easy to convince yourself that it's just part of aging or that it will go away on its own, but these could be the early stages of a stroke, and time is of the essence. Linda's story teaches us a valuable lesson. Don't wait. If you experience unexplained dizziness or balance issues, don't ignore them. Take them seriously and seek medical attention. It's easy to think of dizziness as nothing more than a nuisance, but it can be a sign of something much more dangerous, something that requires immediate attention. You can't afford to wait until the symptoms worsen. The sooner you act, the better your chances are of avoiding serious consequences. So, the next time you feel unsteady on your feet, the next time your vision goes blurry or you feel like the room is spinning, remember Linda's story. Don't brush it off. Trust your instincts and seek help. The reality is that dizziness and balance problems are not just a part of getting older. They can be a warning that your brain isn't receiving the oxygen it needs to function properly, and it could be a signal of an impending stroke. Your health is in your hands, and taking immediate action when you notice these signs could make all the difference. Your future, your ability to live independently, and your overall well-being depend on it. Listen to your body. If something feels wrong, don't wait. Act now, and give yourself the best chance at a healthy, fulfilling life. Every moment counts, and recognizing these signs early can save you from facing the full impact of a stroke. For difficulty speaking or slurred speech, there is something so unsettling about being in the middle of a conversation and suddenly realizing that the words just aren't coming out right. You're speaking to someone you love, perhaps telling a story or asking a simple question, and out of nowhere, your speech starts to feel strange. You can still hear the words in your head clearly, but when you try to say them, they come out all wrong. Maybe you can't find the right words at all, or they slip out in a garbled mess, sounding slurred or distorted. It's easy to brush this off. Maybe you just haven't had enough rest. Maybe you're tired after a long day, and your mind is a bit foggy. Or, if you're getting older, you might think, this happens sometimes. It's just a part of aging. It's nothing to worry about. And yet, what if this moment of slurred speech, this feeling of not being able to express yourself clearly, is actually something much more serious? What if, in that very moment, your body is sending a critical signal, a sign of something that could change your life forever if you don't act quickly? Linda, a 69-year-old woman from Ohio, had always been known for her ability to speak clearly and express herself with confidence. One afternoon, she was sitting at the kitchen table, chatting with her daughter, when something strange happened. As she spoke, she felt the words slip out of her mouth in a way that didn't feel right. She tried to say, "I think we should go to the store," but the words that came out were slurred, like they were tangled in her mouth. Her daughter looked at her with confusion, thinking it was just a slip of the tongue. Linda, too, tried to brush it off as tiredness, maybe from a long day of cleaning the house. She apologized and tried to continue, but the words wouldn't come out clearly. Her tongue felt thick, and she felt like her mouth wasn't cooperating. With her thoughts, she thought, "I must be exhausted. It's probably nothing." But that nothing was, in fact, a warning. It was the first sign that Linda was having a stroke. At that moment, Linda dismissed the signs, chalking it up to fatigue. But the truth is that every second counts when a stroke is happening. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to recover from the damage. By the time she tried to speak again, the slurring continued, and she noticed that she was struggling to form sentences altogether. Linda's daughter finally insisted on calling 911. It wasn't until she was in the hospital that Linda learned the truth. She had suffered a stroke, and the part of her brain that controls speech had been affected. The doctors told her that if she had waited much longer, her ability to speak might have been permanently compromised. This story is more common than you might think. Difficulty speaking or slurred speech is one of the earliest and most telling signs of a stroke, yet it's also one of the most easily overlooked. When we're tired or stressed, it's natural to assume that our cognitive abilities, including speech, might falter for a moment. But slurred speech, especially when it happens suddenly and without a clear cause, should never be ignored. It's one of the first signs that the brain's vital blood supply has been interrupted. A stroke in the part of the brain responsible for speech can occur quickly, and the longer you wait to act, the greater the chance of permanent damage. But how can you tell if that moment of slurred speech is just tiredness, or if it's a serious warning sign? The truth is, you need to pay attention to the timing, the suddenness, and the context. Slurred speech caused by a stroke isn't just a mistake here or there. It happens suddenly and without any obvious reason. If you find yourself struggling to speak, or if your words come out garbled or distorted, it's time to act fast. In that critical moment, don't hesitate. Ask yourself, can I say a simple sentence? Can I raise both arms? Does my face look droopy on one side? These simple tests are life-saving, and they can help you determine if the signs you're experiencing are related to a stroke. It's also important to speak to a loved one or someone close to you. They may notice things that you don't, like if one side of your mouth is drooping, or if you're struggling to form words, if anything seems off. If your speech is slurred or unclear, don't wait. Call 911 immediately. The faster you act, the better your chances are of minimizing the damage, preventing permanent disability, and giving yourself the opportunity to recover. Many people who experience a stroke can look back and recall a moment of slurred speech, difficulty articulating, or feeling like they couldn't get their words out properly. Often, they dismiss it at first, thinking it was just a bad moment, only to find out that it was the very first sign of something serious. What makes this particularly dangerous is that a stroke can progress rapidly, and the effects on speech, along with the brain's ability to process and understand language, can be long-lasting or even irreversible, if not treated immediately. Experience is a powerful reminder that we can't afford to ignore the early signs. The truth is that you know your body better than anyone else. If something feels wrong, don't downplay it. Don't convince yourself that you're just tired, or that it's a normal part of aging. Every second matters. And speaking is one of the most important functions we have. Losing the ability to communicate, even temporarily, can leave you feeling isolated and helpless, but it doesn't have to be that way. With early intervention, many people can recover their speech and regain their ability to express themselves fully. So, next time you find yourself struggling to speak or noticing that your words are coming out in a jumbled mess, don't ignore it. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, is this normal for me? Is this something I've experienced before? If the answer is no, don't wait. Pick up the phone, call 911, and get the help you need. It's not just about a moment of slurred speech. It's about your future. It's about protecting yourself from a stroke before it can steal away your ability to communicate, think, and move freely. You have the power to act, to make that call, and to take control of your health. Don't wait until it's too late. Listen to your body. Every second counts. 5. Sudden, severe, unusual headache. Know that feeling, the familiar ache in your head after a long day of work, a salty meal, or maybe too many hours in front of a screen. These are headaches you can almost predict, knowing they'll go away after some rest, water, or maybe a little over-the-counter pain relief. But what if one day, you suddenly experience a headache so sharp, so intense, that it feels completely different from anything you've ever felt before? What if, instead of the usual dull throb, you feel a searing pain that seems to come out of nowhere? A headache that doesn't just pass, but keeps getting worse. This is what happened to Clara, a 72-year-old woman living in California. Clara had always been healthy and active, and she never thought much of the occasional headache. However, one morning, while she was out watering her garden, she was struck by an intense, sudden headache, one that felt so different from any she had ever experienced. It was sharp, like a sudden blow to the back of her head. She tried to brush it off, assuming it was just a minor headache caused by the heat, but the pain didn't subside. In fact, it only got worse. Clara felt dizzy, as though the world was spinning around her. Her vision began to blur, and she could feel a deep sense of weakness creeping into her limbs. At first, she told herself it was nothing more than exhaustion. After all, she had been busy all morning, working in the garden, and it was a hot day. She tried to walk inside, hoping the headache would pass, but it didn't. In fact, the pain intensified, and Clara realized that something wasn't right. She was no longer able to hold herself upright. Her legs felt like jelly, and she found herself grabbing onto a chair for support. Her heart raced as she struggled to keep her balance. That's when she knew it was time to act. She called her son, who immediately rushed over to her. Within moments, he called 911. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed the worst. Clara had suffered a brain hemorrhage, a type of stroke caused by bleeding in the brain. This type of stroke is far more dangerous than the one caused by a clot because the bleeding can rapidly increase pressure inside the skull, leading to permanent damage. Had Clara waited any longer, the outcome could have been far worse. Fortunately, she had acted quickly, and the doctors were able to treat her before the situation became critical. It was a terrifying experience, one that left her with a newfound understanding of how dangerous sudden headaches can be. What Clara went through is more common than we realize. Many people experience sudden, severe headaches, and while they often chalk it up to stress, fatigue, or something as simple as dehydration, this kind of headache can actually be a warning sign of something much more serious. A brain hemorrhage. Unlike the usual tension headaches we all experience, a brain hemorrhage causes intense, sharp pain, often accompanied by other symptoms like blurred vision, dizziness, nausea, or weakness in the limbs. These symptoms shouldn't be ignored. A headache that feels completely out of the ordinary could be the body's way of signaling that something much more dangerous is happening inside your brain. The key difference between a regular headache and a stroke-related headache is the intensity and suddenness of the pain. While tension headaches often build slowly and are manageable, a brain hemorrhage headache comes on quickly and hits with a sharp, almost violent pain. If you find yourself suddenly struck by this kind of headache, especially if it's combined with dizziness, nausea, or blurred vision, don't wait. Seek medical help immediately. Time is critical, and acting quickly can mean the difference between life and death, or between full recovery and permanent damage. It's easy to assume that all headaches are the same, especially if you've had them all your life. But the truth is, not all headaches are created equal. Some are warning signs. If you experience a sudden, sharp headache, especially if it's accompanied by any of the following symptoms: blurred vision, weakness in your arms or legs, nausea, or dizziness, you need to take immediate action. These symptoms can point to a brain hemorrhage, a type of stroke caused by bleeding in the brain, and it's essential to get medical help as soon as possible. Clara's experience is a perfect example of how critical it is to listen to your body and not just brush off strange or severe symptoms. Many people experience headaches, and most of the time they are nothing to be worried about. But when a headache is unlike anything you've felt before, it should raise a red flag. It's not just about pain. It's about warning signs that something in your body isn't functioning as it should. A sudden, severe headache is the body's way of trying to get your attention, telling you that you need help, and the longer you wait, the more difficult it will be to fix the damage. In Clara's case, she was fortunate. She acted quickly and called for help when she realized that the pain wasn't something she could just wait out. But not everyone is so lucky. Many people assume that the pain will go away, or that it's just a normal headache, only to find out too late that it was a sign of something much more serious. Don't let that happen to you. If you ever find yourself experiencing a sudden, severe headache that feels different from any headache you've had before, especially if you experience other symptoms like dizziness, blurred vision, or weakness in your limbs, call 911 immediately. You may not realize it, but those few seconds you take to make the call could save your life. The truth is, headaches, especially those that come on suddenly and intensely, should never be ignored. They can be a sign of something much more dangerous, something that can change your life in an instant. If you're in doubt, don't wait. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, if the headache feels worse than anything you've ever experienced, act fast. Your life could depend on it. Clara's story is one of many, but it's a reminder that our bodies have ways of signaling us when something is wrong. It's easy to brush off these signals, to think that a headache is just part of getting older or being stressed. But a headache like the one Clara had could be the beginning of something far more serious. Don't ignore it. Your health is too important. If you feel that something is wrong, trust your instincts and seek help immediately. Time is precious, and when it comes to brain health, every second counts. 6. Unusual fatigue, drowsiness, and slow reactions. There are days when you feel like you're just running on empty. Maybe you didn't sleep well the night before, or perhaps you've had a long week filled with stress. It's normal to feel a little drained now and then. We all have those moments where we just need a break. But what if this exhaustion, this weariness, doesn't go away after a good night's rest? What if, day after day, you feel an overwhelming fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to fix? What if your body seems to be telling you that something deeper, something more concerning, is happening? Linda, a 69-year-old woman from Ohio, had always been active and full of life. She worked long hours at a local library, spent time gardening, and loved to walk her dog around the neighborhood. But over the course of a few weeks, she noticed something strange. She started feeling unusually tired, even after a full night's sleep. At first, she didn't think much of it. After all, she had just come back from a long weekend trip, and traveling always left her a little worn out. But as the days went on, the fatigue didn't lift. In fact, it grew worse. She found herself unable to get through her usual tasks without taking breaks. She couldn't even walk her dog for more than a few blocks without feeling completely wiped out. She felt like her body was dragging her through the day. Soon, she began to notice that her reactions were slower than they used to be. She had trouble focusing on simple tasks like reading or cooking. The sharpness that had always defined her, that kept her moving fast through her day, seemed to be slipping away. She couldn't place her finger on it. Everything just felt off. She also started feeling lightheaded more frequently, like she was walking through a fog. These moments of dizziness were brief but unsettling, especially when she was trying to keep up with her usual routine. Despite these troubling signs, Linda brushed it off. She told herself that maybe she was just getting older. Maybe this fatigue was just part of the aging process. After all, she had always been an active person, and perhaps her body was simply starting to slow down. But one evening, while trying to make dinner, Linda stumbled over her own feet and almost fell. That's when she realized that something was seriously wrong. She couldn't deny it any longer. The fatigue, the slow reactions, the dizziness, they weren't just signs of getting older. They were signs that her body was in distress, and that something bigger was happening. Linda's story is not unique. In fact, unusual fatigue, drowsiness, and slow reactions are some of the most commonly overlooked symptoms that could signal a stroke. We all have days where we feel tired or sluggish, but when this fatigue becomes persistent, when it starts to affect your ability to function normally, it could be an indication that your brain isn't getting the blood flow it needs. When your brain is deprived of oxygen-rich blood, it can't function at full capacity. And this is reflected in the symptoms you may start experiencing: fatigue, sluggishness, dizziness, and even slow reaction times. What makes this so dangerous is that these symptoms are often mistaken for something else. Fatigue, especially in older adults, is often dismissed as a normal part of aging. But when fatigue is paired with other signs, like tingling in the limbs, slurred speech, or like it's time to pay close attention, these are not just coincidental symptoms. They are warning signs that your brain may not be receiving the oxygen it needs. It's easy to brush these signs off as just a little exhaustion from a busy life. But when fatigue lasts for days or weeks, it's no longer just tiredness. It's your body signaling that something is wrong. Linda eventually went to her doctor after the near fall in her kitchen. After a few tests, the doctor confirmed that she was experiencing the early signs of a stroke. Her brain wasn't getting enough blood, and she was at serious risk of suffering a major stroke if she didn't take action immediately. Linda was fortunate because she listened to her body and sought help when she did. She was able to avoid a more severe stroke, but her story could have had a very different ending had she ignored those signs of fatigue and slow reactions for much longer. If you're experiencing unusual fatigue, drowsiness, or slower than usual reactions, don't wait. The signs can be subtle at first, and it's easy to convince yourself that they're just part of getting older, but they could be a sign that your brain is being deprived of the blood it needs. If this fatigue is coupled with other symptoms like dizziness, slurred speech, or tingling in the arms or legs, take immediate action. Time is of the essence. The sooner you get help, the better your chances of avoiding a serious stroke. Don't wait for the fatigue to worsen. Don't wait for the dizziness to become more intense or for your speech to slur. The earlier you recognize these symptoms and seek medical help, the better your chances are of preventing permanent damage. Listen to your body. Your body is speaking to you, and the earlier you respond, the more you can protect your health and your future. We often take our health for granted, especially when it comes to things like energy levels or reaction times. We dismiss these small signals, thinking they are just part of the process of aging. But the truth is, you don't have to live with these symptoms. If your body is telling you something is wrong, listen. If your energy is drained, if you're reacting more slowly than usual, if you're feeling lightheaded or dizzy, it's time to take action. Your brain needs constant blood flow to stay healthy, and if it's not getting what it needs, these symptoms are a sign that something is wrong. Just like Linda, you have the power to take control of your health. Don't wait for things to get worse. If the fatigue is persistent, and if you're noticing other symptoms, don't let the moment pass without getting checked out. Seek medical help. Time is precious when it comes to strokes, and every moment counts. If you act early, you have a better chance of preventing long-term damage, and you can protect the independence and vitality you deserve. The choice is yours. Will you ignore the signs and hope it goes away? Or will you take the proactive step to protect yourself and get the care you need before it's too late? Listen to your body. Take action today, before the symptoms become something more severe. You have the power to make that choice. The key to preventing a stroke or minimizing its effects is early detection. By paying attention to subtle signs, like numbness, dizziness, and changes in your vision or speech, you can act quickly and prevent serious damage. Your body often gives you signals long before the full-blown event occurs. Remember, early action saves lives. If you notice any of these symptoms, don't wait. Call 911, trust your body, and don't dismiss the small signs. Your health and your life are worth it. If this video was helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could benefit. Your support helps us bring valuable information to more people. Stay safe, stay healthy, and take care of your body. It's the most important thing you have.